Ready?
I'm ready. Good morning. Good morning. Being 9 a.m., I'll call to order the McHenry County. Excuse me, I'm speaking. I'll call to order the McHenry County Board Committee, the whole meeting of March 14th, 2024, and Mr. Smith will lead us in the pledge today.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, will you call the roll, please?
Terry Greeno. Here. Eric Hendricks. Carl Kaminsky.
Present.
James Kearns. Here. Matthew Kunkel.
Here.
Teresa Meshes. Lou Ness. John Reinhardt.
Here.
Brian Sager.
Here.
Michael Shorten.
Here.
Michael Scala.
Present.
Larry Smith.
Here.
Gloria Van Hoff.
Present.
Tracy Von Bergen.
Here.
Kelly Wegner.
Here.
Chairman Bueller.
Here. I will entertain a motion to allow Mr. Kunkel to join remotely. Mr. Scala makes the motion. Ms. Althoff seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Welcome, Mr. Kunkel.
Thank you.
Good morning again. I have a handful of items to share with the board before we begin reviewing the agenda for the March voting meeting. I'll start with some good news for McHenry County from Washington, D.C. Congress last week passed the 2024 Consolidated Appropriations Act to partially fund the federal government for the remainder of the 2024 fiscal year. The act includes $850,000 for our long-sought infrastructure project to construct a proper rail yard in Woodstock for Metra's Union Pacific Northwest line. Also, we just learned that the consulting firm working on the rail yard project will begin holding open houses to discuss and gather input from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Thursday, March 21st at Woodstock Opera House. The funding was included courtesy of Representative Bill Foster, and the project was one of the legislative priorities that I, along with County Administrator Pete Austin, Law and Government Committee Chairwoman Pam Althoff, County Coordinator Shaylin Daigle, Director of Public Affairs Alicia Schuler, and Algonquin Village President Debbie Sosine discussed when we attended the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference in February. The appropriations bill also includes more than $4.1 million, courtesy of Representative Jan Schakowsky, to defray the cost of Phase 2 of the Randall Road Improvement Project set to start this year. And through PACE, McHenry County will also receive $1 million for electric paratransit buses, courtesy of Representative Foster. McHenry County owes them both a debt of gratitude for helping fund these important projects. On Thursday, February 29th, I had the honor of attending the swearing in of McHenry County Chief Judge Michael Camille as president of the Advocate Society. The society is an association of Polish American attorneys that promotes the progress of law and justice, maintains the honor and integrity of the legal profession, and fosters interest in Polish American culture and heritage. Congratulations to Judge Camille for the accolade. On Wednesday, March 20th, the Regional Office of Education will once again be holding the McHenry County Regional Spelling Bee at McHenry County College, and the winner will advance to the Scripps National Spelling Bee in May. Regional Superintendent Diana Hartman is seeking sponsors to help cover the cost of sending the winner to Maryland for the national competition. Interested sponsors can contact her at 815-334-4055. Likewise, the ROE is also seeking sponsors for the annual Educator of the Year Awards that will be held May 11th. And finally, this morning, I want to wish good luck to everyone on the county board and elsewhere who are running in contested primaries on March 19th, and thank you for your willingness to serve the public through holding elected office. As a final reminder, our March meeting is pushed back a week to Tuesday, March 26th on account of the primary election. This concludes my remarks, and in a moment, after public comment and members' comments, Treasurer Donna Kurtz will address the board to unveil her office's newly redesigned property tax bill. And with that, I'll entertain members' comments. Mr. Sager.
Yes, Chairman, I want to express my sincere appreciation to you and to those members who did go out to Washington on behalf of our county and to work with our our congressional representatives out in Washington, D.C. To procure funding for these very important transportation projects. This has long been a hope, some would say a fantasy, almost a dream, if you will, that we might be able to get some funding for the Metro Rail Yard northwest of Woodstock. But it is certainly going to serve our larger community exceptionally well. Equally, the additional PACE dollars are going to provide additional opportunities for our residents. So my sincere thanks to you for your leadership and those others who represented the county in Washington, D.C. on our collective behalf. And I think that we have some exciting times ahead. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ness?
Yes, I would like to invite all the county board members. You will be getting a flyer. March 29th is Vietnam Veteran Memorial Day. Vietnam vets have their own Memorial Day, nationally recognized. We are holding our second veteran event here in front of the Vietnam Veteran Memorial at 8 a.m. The event is titled Voices from Vietnam, and we'll be hearing from Vietnam era veterans that day. There will be a continental breakfast to follow. I do want to thank Pete and the chairman for opening the admin center because we'll be closed. It's the Easter weekend. Just come and show up. Our Vietnam vets are dying. They're aging out, and I would like us to keep them in the front of our minds. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Greeno?
Thank you. International Women's Day, March 8th of 2024. Hold on, I just lost my work. Brings awareness of how easily good intentions pave the road to destruction. The official website for the event is filled with oxymorons touting a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. Contrarily, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. #Inspire Inclusion. It is the art and product of identity politics to divide and conquer. Separate this group, label it, and then tell it, and this is a quote from the website. Inclusion means all International Women's Day action is valid, which leads to a quote often used by the movers and shakers of identity politics. Well-behaved women rarely make history. Laurel Ulrich. Heather Riggleman, writing about Laurel Ulrich's quote from her article in 1976, Virtuous Women Found, New England Ministerial Literature, 1668 to 1735, was not a statement for women's right or creating a wave of feminists. As a historian of women, she was making a simple point. The beautiful virtues of godly women in early American are easily forgotten because they leave few newsworthy remnants for the historian. The statement describes courageous women who sought, without the hope of praise or admiration, to stand up against injustice. In the Bible, there are the same stories of women as men. In fact, Christ made a point of it when he used parables. Stories of historic fact as well as stories of illustration cover the significance of each individual, regardless of gender. Back to Heather Riggleman's observations. She notes that Laurel's quote isn't an invitation to be ill-disciplined and naughty, but to realize being Christ-like sometimes goes against status quo. Does this phrase give women permission to act naughty, have abortions, and defy those in authority? Joseph Pierce writes, "We need a society that knows that the hand that rocks the cradle is the very rock on which society stands secure. In other words, we need a society that knows that patriarchy can only exist if it nestles in the bosom of matriarchy. Women have shaped our world as well as men. Women of strength are fully aware of how they are created in the image of strength, loyalty, grace, kindness, service, and gentleness. It is our duty to join in making history by defending what has been endowed in each of us by a divine creator. Thank you.
Mr. Gottemoeller?
Thank you. Administrative Services Committee last week brought up the opportunity to review our board rules. It is that time again. And I would just ask any board member who has looked at the board rules in the past, and if you haven't, look at them now. And if you see something that you don't like or you want changed, now's the time to bring it forward to us, and we'll take it up and go from there.
Ms. Wagner?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say that I hope this countywide referendum passes next Tuesday. Good luck to everybody who's running. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's gone out to the community to educate them about the referendum. I think it's important that we tell everyone why or what the benefits are of it passing. I also want to read a letter that was sent to Chairman Bueller and myself from the Community Health Partnership about the mobile health clinic. To whom it may concern, the Cultivating Health Ministries, CHM program of McHenry County supports the services provided by the McHenry County Department of Health, WIC department, and the proposal for the mobile clinic to serve the Harvard area residents. CHM's program mission and goals emphasize on increasing awareness and empowering our most vulnerable populations living in McHenry County to live a healthier lifestyle. We bring health and wellness services to the congregations and residents of the county, connecting people with healthcare services and resources and programming needed. We therefore support the services available for the families and individuals in need of nutritional and financial necessities, as may be the clients for the WIC department. Our programming extends to all McHenry County and includes Harvard, Hebron, and Marengo, which are some of the rural areas of the county, where transportation is a major barrier to obtaining services. Thus, having WIC services available to the most underserved, as they are uninsured or underinsured, migrant families and those with financial difficulties, can immensely benefit these communities. Once again, the WIC department has our support for bringing a mobile clinic to the communities in need, especially in Harvard. Sincerely, Elizabeth Rios, PhD, APRN Project Director of Cultivating Health Ministries, and Linda Rohe, Executive Director of Harvard Community Senior Center.
Thank you. Seeing no further members' comments, we'll move on to public comment. We have one today. Mr. Vinton.
Good morning, Board. I'm Norm Vinton, Chief of the Civil Division. As you know, with me today, Kyle Brewitt, Cecilia Blue, Alicia Ayala, Brian Miller. We want to say thank you to this board. This is just a representative group from the State's Attorney's Office to thank you for your support of our resolution last month. It meant a lot to this office. It meant a lot to the employees in the office. The morale has improved drastically since that resolution. We are now extremely hopeful on our recruitment and our retention. Let me just tell you a little bit, I'm going to be very brief, but a little bit about this group right here. You have Alicia, who's in the Civil Division. You have Cecilia, who's in the Civil Division, but came over to the premier division of the county from the criminal side. You have Kyle, who was on the criminal side for years, and he's always here. He's parliamentarian for your board. And you have Brian Miller, who is felony review and grand jury. There were two other people that were going to be here this morning, but they got called to court this morning, and that's Bill Bruce, who's the chief of the criminal division, and Ashley Ramito, who is our special prosecutor, handles the worst of the worst, sex crimes, arson, the worst of the worst, basically. And those two are important because they were both career prosecutors in Cook County and left Cook County to come out here. These two guys moved to the county 10 years ago and have been in the office, and it was critical to keep people like this, who moved their families here, that wanted to be here. And we just so appreciate the support from this board. And we wanted to tell you that. We'd have all 32 lawyers here if we could, but they're in court. And but we just want you to know, we sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, under reports and presentations today, we have Treasurer Donna Kurtz to show us her modernized property tax bill.
Right. Oh, come on over here. Oh, there'll be multiple. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you, Greg. Okay, good. Good morning, County Board members. It's great to see all of you, and I hope that this will be fun and interesting for you, as it has been for myself and my staff. I've brought with me one of the team members on our redesign project, Evelina Karamaz. And we're going to share with you in the course of the conversation the limited edition of this tax bill. We are finalizing a few aspects of it, and so we thus wanted to keep it as a limited edition. So Evelina is going to step up to the third row. We're building on the success from last year's tax bill. We didn't get everything we wanted, and we had to get a new printer because our contract was up. So we thought, hey, there's an opportunity to really take some important steps forward. And it just so happens that the steps we wanted to take forward, you might recognize, coincide with what your objectives were as it pertains to educating our taxpayers about their taxes and about different elements of McHenry County government, and maybe government in general here in the county. So that's always nice, right? It's nice to be part of great minds, and certainly the fact that we both have that kind of objective is a good thing. So what were our goals? First off, we want to promote taxpayer engagement and education. We also want to use new technology. There's actually some cool features that we're going to bring to the forefront to make our tax bill even more easy to pay. And finally, we want to give taxpayers tools. We did a great job of that last year, and now we're building on that for this year. So what does that mean? Well, first off, and Evelina, where are you? Evelina, oh, no. Can you go up there, please? So Evelina is going to be handing out both our new tax bill. Oh, you've already done it. Oh, gosh, you are so good. Thank you very much. Excuse me?
We don't have enough.
No, you don't. And you won't.
It's the limited edition.
This is limited edition. This is a limited edition, yeah. So why is that? You know, you never want to, overwhelm people with what's not totally reviewed and finalized, right? So anyway, thank you, Lou. Appreciate it. Appreciate the commentary. So note that we're going to a 8.5 by 14. Why? Because we want to make this easy for people to read. We want to give them information that we think is really valid and important for them. So that's the first improvement. But let's go to the next part of this. I talked about the new technology. And so you'll note we've got a QR code. We also have a cute little logo cartoon to the left of that. That is a new feature where there's some authorization number unique to that taxpayer and that tax bill. That's going to give people the opportunity to sign up if they want for features such as notification, for being able to pay in advance of the due date for both tax bills if they wish. It will also create the opportunity for an electronic bill to be sent to them next year. You can sign up for that, and next year you can do that. What does that do? Well, one, it does save us postage. And over time, that'll be a lot. But the other thing it does is it addresses the Gen X, the people that live electronically. And guess what? We got to grow with them because they're our future. We got to be part of that. So that's new technology in that respect. Secondly, we've taken data, and you may see that in the in these tax bills. The old tax bill, this information was completely buried in 5-point font. Actually, we made it 6-point for last year. We've taken that, and now it's right at the top. So you can see it very easily, and it helps you in, basically confirming the legal and real estate aspects of your tax bill. Okay, then we get to what I had the mayor of Crystal Lake say, Donna, we love the idea of putting phone numbers on the tax bill for the taxing bodies. And that's what we've done here. We'll look at that in a second. But he said to me, why haven't we been doing that? Why is that a big deal? And then he finished like many people. I love it. So anyway, we're in the process of getting that data together with this element of the tax bill. I'm going to talk to you about it in 1 second. I also, though, want you to note the pie graph to the right of it, and we'll talk about that one as well. So first off, who is taxing me? That's the question that taxpayers are asking. And we're going to mention the headings of every element of this tax bill in a second. But that's what they want to know. Who is taxing me? And so we've done something that we think will help them, and that is giving them the contact number. We're asking the taxing bodies to tell us what number do they want to give us. And that will be incorporated into the tax bill. Second thing is, we have ordered, if you notice, we've ordered the table according to, not alphabetically. Why? That doesn't help a taxpayer. We've ordered it according to the increase in the tax. And we think that is also a real plus. So the increase from the year before to this year, how many dollars more am I paying as a taxpayer? We think that people deserve to understand how that is occurring. Keep in mind that you might have a taxing district that doesn't have a lot of taxes being charged, but I think taxpayers want to know if their taxes went up 20%. And so they're going to see the order of who increased my taxes more. Now, if that prompts a phone call to that taxing body in which the taxing body can now explain why, that's a win. That's a win for everyone. Why? Because people talk to other people, and that collective social knowledge is a win for all of us. The next part of the conversation is, where do my taxes go? Now, this is a different way of looking at the numbers. And that is, the dollar spent, who's getting the biggest share of it? And again, the graphical representation tells the story. And that's what we want. We want people to say, hey, this is why, I live here, I have this value coming to me, and I have a picture, saving 1,000 words, in front of me to tell that story. So, let's talk a little bit more about engagement. Engagement isn't telling people, with headings, etc. Engagement is questions, and that's what we've done. If you notice in the tax bill that I presented to you a second ago, we are presenting questions. And the questions are, who's taxing me? Where do my taxes go? How are my taxes determined? We're going to look at that in a second. Who do I contact with my questions? We've spent a ton of time on that one, and you'll see some of the great work last year is being replicated for this year. I mean, that's the problem with government, right? We do so many cool things. It's so complex, and people want to know who to call. You know, cost of government goes down when you know who to call because you haven't called 3 other taxing bodies who, by the way, have to pay someone to answer that phone call. So you've created additional cost, overhead, and you have a confused, frustrated, maybe even angry taxpayer. That gets eliminated when you tell people how to contact and who to contact for what reason. And then finally, how do I pay? And that's very important. You know why? Because I don't like to penalize taxpayers who are late. And if I can do everything in my power to make it easy for them to pay, send out reminders, which is a new feature of our tax bills, we are doing the right thing in keeping the tax bill as cost effective as we can, and we avoid the horror, in my opinion, of being penalized. I just think that's awful. But we have to be fair. So in any event, the answers to the questions then is the next part of this conversation. So let's look at the back of the tax bill. And you'll see that it's, even from, you know, maybe the distance you're seeing here, I just feel so guilty. Lou, please. Thank you, Donna. A pleasure.
Squeaky wheel.
I should have brought more. Okay, I get it, but anyway, there'll be some minor changes to this. But in any event, just notice, I mean, it's just a very clean, professional look to this. One of the most complicated elements, however, of the tax bill is the whole process of how did these taxes get to be what they are. And we take a skinny, tiny little column that was in the old tax bill, and we've broken it out into a 3-column table that's very easy to read. You can see the pluses and the minuses and the valuation of your property. And I think, you know, somebody who's really interested in about a minute can figure out how their taxes got to be what they are. Again, we want it to be as clear and as transparent as possible. That makes people understand the value and it helps them understand the why. And that is half of the confusion and frustration I think that taxpayers feel. I also want to point out that the answers to all of these various questions that I raised before, note we have the assessors located. We explain how you can figure out your township. Most people don't know how to find their township. We also have a lot of did you know? These are the kind of things, you know, did you know that if you don't get a tax bill, you still owe? And if you don't pay, you still will get a penalty? Now, we're actually doing some things to alleviate that. That's a different project. Maybe I'll come back if I'm invited. I'll tell you about that project. We're working with the clerk, but in any event. And then note down below, we have the how to pay, and we'll probably be doing another stellar Oscar award-winning video ad. County Board Meshes, you know, Chairman Bueller, maybe we'll get another couple of fine actors to join us, and we're gonna do another video because we've got new stuff here. A series of videos, Alicia, watch out. So the other thing I do wanna point out is we maintained the change, the change form, the address change form. Why? Because people need a quick way to, you know, make an address change and get that to us. So lots of richness in this information. So, you know, I'm gonna conclude now. Yes, I'm almost done. So, you know, we've got the best vendors. We worked hard with our RFP. Purchasing was just phenomenal. They worked hard for us, we worked hard with them. So we just have great vendors. We've got solid technology solutions that are really going to be an advancement for our county. And we took the extensive experience in the treasurer's office, and believe me, 24 years times how many people, there's some cool stuff going on there. So we could put together something that I think is going to be hugely helpful. And I want to close by saying, I believe that we're delivering a commercial grade tax bill. This is what you would expect from a quality utility bill. You know, how complex is that? Any kind of tax bill should be this level, in my opinion. And that's going to help our taxing bodies, and that's going to help our taxpayers. So that's my conclusion. And if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Greeno?
Yes, I have to say, far superior to ComEd, no question. This is your format and present, it's far superior to the ComEd bill. But I also wanted to point out, and you did not mention it, and you're definitely understating it. Could you speak to the negotiations that you got on the fees associated with the payments, please?
Oh. Yeah, well, when we went through purchasing, again, purchasing really helped us because, you know, it's not an apples to apples with these purchasing. They're called payment processors. So we liked some of the features, but then we found out that they wanted to just really kill it on the charges associated with the payment processing. And so in the end, we got the lowest rates. We stayed with the lowest rates from a vendor who didn't provide us with the functionality, but we made up for it with another vendor. And that negotiation, unfortunately, not all treasurers care about the fees that people pay for a credit card. You know, people want to get points for their credit cards, and if your credit card allows it, that's great. But doggone it, you know, I'm not going to let you pay 3.5%. Believe it or not, that's allowed by some. And they'll get whatever they can out of you. I was kind of a little mean at times, and we're doing 2.3. That's about as low as it gets. And the debit card, where they wanted to also charge, believe that? Can you believe that? I mean, a fee on that? No, that'll remain at $4. Why? Because the taxpayer needs to spend as little as possible to get their payment in. So, thanks, Terry.
Ms. Ness?
This is totally great because Member Wegner and I had a town hall and we brought our tax bills and people were just surprised at what, so having them in order like this though will be really great. People had no idea. And what was great is that Member Wegner lives in unincorporated. I live in a municipality, so they then could see the difference between I pay a library fee to the municipality. Member Wegner does not. I do think if we start to talk to taxpayers more like this and hold those meetings so they understand, then they get a view of what they're actually getting for their dollar. So this is fabulous. This is great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Board Member Ness. I just want to comment that we just got done with our extensive senior deferral programming. We learned a lot of things from it. I appreciate County Board Mesh's attending, as well as Chairman Bueller. We want to do something along these lines, County Board Member Ness. So when we do, I'll talk to you. If you want to help schedule with your constituents, that's great. But we'll be putting together dates. We'll again do it so any county board member can sign up and participate. So thank you.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Two quick things. One, you stop short of what your office is doing for the e-check, picking up that tab, which helps the taxpayer out. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And second, great presentation. Is there a way you could email it that we have this, the slideshow, that when we do talk to our constituents or having a town meeting with them, we can actually do a little printing or, you know, show them on our tablet,
Yes.
whatever.
Absolutely. Let me finalize. I noticed we had a couple of typos and a few little minor details. But yes, in the next week, no later than the next 2 weeks, absolutely. Yes. What we do, we now are going to be engaged in the data mapping for the tax bill, the testing of the tax bill, the testing of the optical character recognition, OCR testing. So we have a lot of detailed technical work ahead of us. But I think I should be ready in the next week or two for you to get this presentation with the final for the tax bill.
That's great.
Great. Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you. We will continue with the e-check payment. It makes sense from dollars and cents. It's a dollar cost to the treasurer's office, and what it does is it makes people feel real good about paying online. That's much cheaper than going through the lockbox for us or having a person wait on people, though we love people coming in when they need someone to wait on them because of various reasons they might have. So it's all good.
Ms. Von Bergen?
Thank you for working on this. This is huge for the taxpayers of the counties to be able to understand their tax bills. Back in my assessor days, tax bill time was challenging, trying to explain everything to everybody. And I think this, holds each of the districts that are levying, some accountability as to what they're asking people to pay. I'm sure there's 17 assessors out there that are appreciative of not being, forced to explain every line item of the tax bill. So I truly appreciate that, and hopefully this helps out the assessor's office come tax bill time also.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you, County Board Member Van Bergen. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sager?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you and commendation to you, Donna, to your entire staff, and certainly to the procurement office for the fine work that they've done in interacting with our vendors. Frankly, you started out by saying it's an attractive bill. It is an attractive bill. That does not take out the ugh that people have when they get their property tax. So the ugh is not going to be removed. And yet at the same time, I think that you have done a truly yeoman's job of helping to explain the tax procedure, if you will, why it is what it is, how it has been developed, what are the eligible, if you will, or opportune portions of your tax bill, and then finally, how do you pay that bill? And so I think you've done just a yeoman's job here, and I truly, truly appreciate it. And I think that you need to hear that units of local government who also get all the phone calls all the time, just as your office does, about your property taxes, are going to be, I think, very, very grateful for this. So congratulations, and certainly our kudos to you all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Board Member Sager. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further questions, thank you, Treasurer Kurtz.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next we're going to move on to new business. Do any members have items from the March agenda they'd like to remove for discussion? Mr. Scala, I've got you for 90. Is there another one you'd like?
Yes, please. 17B1, please.
Ms. Greeno?
16B26, please.
Ms. Wegner?
I need to abstain from 16B2.2.
Mr. Shorten?
16.B.2.15.
Okay, seeing no others. Oh, Mr. Kearns.
16B 216.
Okay, seeing no others, we're going to do something a little bit different today. Mr. Scala is going to read the proclamation honoring Chief Assessment Officer Robert Ross for his service to McHenry County. A little bit more convenient for Mr. Ross and his staff to be here today than to have to come back after hours on Tuesday. So, Mr. Scala.
Proclamation honoring Chief Assessment Officer Robert, aka Bob Ross. Whereas Robert Ross has dedicated almost 14 years of exemplary service to the people of McHenry County, serving as the Chief Assessment Officer since 2010, and whereas Robert Ross has consistently demonstrated unparalleled knowledge, professionalism, and ethical standards in his role, setting a high standard for himself and his staff. And whereas Robert Ross has shown exceptional patience and affability in explaining the assessment process to the public and elected officials, effectively resolving disputes related to the real estate evaluation. And whereas Robert Ross's contributions have significantly contributed to the smooth functioning of the assessment process and the overall well-being of McHenry County. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the County Board of McHenry County, Illinois, that on this day, we honor and commend Robert Ross for his outstanding service and dedication to McHenry County. We express our deepest gratitude for his contributions and wish him a joyful and fulfilling retirement. Be it further proclaimed that the county clerk is hereby authorized to distribute a certified copy of this proclamation to be spread upon the official records of the McHenry County government and shared widely with the public, recognizing Robert Ross's exceptional contributions to the field of the property assessment and his outstanding service to the community. Dated at Woodstock, Illinois, this 26th day of March, 2024.
I want to say a couple words, just a couple, and then I'll let Bob say a few things too. But you know, not many people grow up wanting to be the chief county assessor. It's hard to imagine a stickier and pricklier role than the role Bob has held for 14 years now. And for 14 years, he's, you know, he and his demeanor and his thick skin and, you know, just calm sense of his purpose has insulated you, me, from some very difficult situations. The county owes Bob a lot of gratitude. The county board owes Bob a lot of gratitude, and I personally owe Bob a lot. He's made it easier on me. You know, it was January of 2023, Bob approached me and said, you know, I'm thinking about retiring. And I said, oh, this is a big deal. Do I got 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 8 weeks? And he said, no, it'll be about 15 months from now. So again, he made it easier on me. And then with the team that Bob has built, most of them are here today. You know, he's really you know, positioned us well to make the transition to a new director. Alex Benitez was the first person that Bob hired here in 2010. And Alex has worked alongside him ever since then. And we're all transitioning to a new chief county assessor with a good deal of calm and confidence that things are going to continue, and you guys are going to continue doing the great work that you're doing. So again, Bob's made it easier on me, made it easier on all of us. So thank you for that. So now, onward, next chapter of your life, and Sherry, good luck. But you're leaving the way everybody wants to leave, on top of your game, healthy, happy, and congratulations. Good luck.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's quite a lot of nice words. Thank you very much, Chairman and Member Scala, for that proclamation, the entire county board. You know, for someone to get those kinds of things said to them, it takes a lot of help and support from other people. And I've had a lot of it. From just, and thanks and support from the county board, from the chairman's office, from Pete and administration, for the whole county, all department heads, et cetera. It's been a pleasure to allow me to be the chief county assessment officer for these 14 years. 14 years, probably the best years I ever had in a career. It's been the best. I haven't job skipped a lot, but I've worked really for 3 organizations. This by far is the best organization I've ever worked for. And it's just, that's the way I feel. But I'd also like to give thanks to my staff and board review who are here. There's no front man without a band. So, and I've brought my entire staff here, unlike Norm, who brought 3, but I know if we were in board review session, they wouldn't all be here either, so I understand that. So my staff, I'd like my staff to stand if they would. They've been a great help throughout the years. And I would echo what Pete's saying. You know, Alex, you've seen me oftentimes wherever I am, Alex has been, so it's been a great 13 years with him, and so happy that he's been appointed to succeed me. My chief deputy and staff are responsible for a lot of the things that are in this book, some of the stuff that doesn't get headlines, and the assessment administration that has to be done in the office. Alex and I are really the only 2 that do valuation stuff. They do the things that, and deal with the Department of Revenue on deadlines, sales ratio deadlines for the county and the townships, working through all the exemptions and helping taxpayers. We just had a mail, after we just got done with board review, we had a mail 7,600 senior freezes. And that's going out. So we're constantly, it takes 2 years to run the assessment cycle. Jean Glorch is my chief deputy and head of the assessment administration in my office. She replaced Carol Saunders, who did a great job, was with me for the first 12 years. Carol was here 32 years. Jean has been here 23 years. Ginger Schaefer's been here 26 years. She runs the mapping division, in charge of real estate transfers, declarations, all the things that, you know, done behind the scenes, I would call. It's not the dirty work, but it's the work that has to get done on a day-by-day basis, those types of things. All the exemptions, and we get hit with new exemptions and new state mandates all the time, and they don't ask us how we're going to do it. They just say do it. And so the staff is always doing a great job with that. Mark Kearns has been here 20 years. He's been in charge of the board review section. Also, same type of thing, we have constant deadlines that go on between us and our office and the Department of Revenue. So I'd like to thank them a great deal. You know, assessments are a rough place to work. In Illinois, just a little bit rougher as ugh. And I think we all know what I mean. I'd also like to thank my wife, Sherry, who's probably heard enough about assessments and equalization. And she's also wondering, like, well, this is not the guy I know, which is unfortunately. So I'm going to work on that calmness demeanor 24/7 instead of just here. A couple of funny stories that happened, just anecdotally, and it won't take long. But also I'd like to thank Donna for those phone numbers that are out there. Now, the reason for that is, and I'm not going to tell any names of townships or tax districts or et cetera, but I was made aware of a story from a township assessor back in Lake County about 15 years ago. She kind of, I guess, had it with a taxpayer and said, well, I'm going to tell them to call this phone number. So they called that phone number, and about 15 minutes later, she got another phone call back from that same number she had given this taxpayer. And the line kind of went something like, don't you ever give my phone number out again. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. Thank you, Donna. Another story was, speaking of being a rough place to work, when Ralph Sauerbaugh was here, I was hired. He was on the interview team, and Ralph's a very sweet guy, for those of us that know him. And he came down to my office on the 4th day of my first week. And I look out the door and I can see the rest of my office where my desk is positioned. All of a sudden I saw Ralph's head was like that. I looked up, I said, Ralph, could I help you with something? Oh, no. I'm just happy you're still here. I'm just glad you're still in there. So, that's a little bit about what the situation can be in assessment sometime. I really enjoyed working in McHenry County. I don't know why. I do know why, but I always thought, a good statement is you want to always be in a spot where it's not too big, not too little. To me, McHenry County fit perfect. In fact, in 2012, when I became aware, somebody said that it's the largest county by population in the United States without an interchange. And I said, well, that's pretty unique. Although we wrecked that in 2019 because we got an interchange now in Marengo on Route 23, but still, that's how I remember it. But McHenry County is not because it's too big and because it is too big or too small that helps. It's about the people. And, I looked up, I was trying to figure out what that could mean. And I came up with the word camaraderie. And that definition is mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together. That's what it feels like at McHenry County for me. I've enjoyed the whole time. I've enjoyed department head meetings for that camaraderie, all of that. It's been a great place to work. And also, I didn't thank the board review, but Cliff Houghton has been with me going all the way back to 2003. He lives in Lake County at the time. He transferred out here. He's been with me as a board review alternate and member for all 23 years. So thank you, Cliff. Sharon Bagby's been at McHenry County 25 years on the board of review. That's a long time and a lot of experience. And Michael Grebenik, I don't know if Michael's here, but he's a new member and he's doing fantastic. I used to say that the commute here was manageable because the sun was always at my back and I was going against the traffic. So that made it manageable, even though I did get a micro discectomy operation because of a bulging disc because of that commute, maybe. And I got my standing desk too late. But what always made it enjoyable was that I was going to work at McHenry County. The final thought I have is that when I moved to Texas in 1984 after graduating from University of Illinois to start my appraisal career, I was determined not to say y'all. I've changed though in 40 years. I'll even say y'all before I get to North Carolina. I'm gonna miss y'all. Thanks, it's been a great 14 years.
Everybody say assessment. One more. Thank you so much.
Good job, Bob. Thanks very much.
Thanks, man.
So much.
Great working with you.
Okay. Ms. Greeno, 16B26.
Yes. I appreciate what the Conservation District does and their efforts. I wanted to make note that and clarify that the payroll burden in the budget is 9.2 million. that actually was a question.
They're looking it up.
So under our general fund, the total under operating expenditures, total personnel, which is wages, retirement, and insurance for fiscal year 2025, approved budget by our board is $8.6 million, which represents 77.9% of our budget. And personnel expenditures does account out of our general fund to be the largest, and we monitor that, but that is how we provide service. That's how we take care of the natural areas, ensure our sites are open for public access.
There was additional payroll in another area. That's why I just wanted to make sure that I had the total correct.
So out of the general fund into the dedicated accounts, under our special revenue where we get grants, we do have 3 positions that are allocated to that. So when you add those in aggregate, that may be where you're getting those numbers.
Is that dollar in, dollar out? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. We get funding for grants and activities, and those dollars have been raised, and so they're not out of the general fund. They're out of specific.
I'd like to ask if sometime before the budget cycle comes, just for the county, for this board, if there could be, and you guys have done a great job of explaining your programs and giving us access and all, but just to make sure that we understand it, it is a very large budget. I know that you're working to pay down debt, and I appreciate that. Payroll burden is always the highest. But if we could understand what the role of the function, you know, the number of employees, where they work, the different properties, the things that are done, so that we can be accountable to the taxpayers when we're questioned about it, because it's significant. So I would just appreciate that in the future. I mean, at some point, maybe over the next couple of months, to the Finance Committee or admin or both. Okay.
Would be happy to do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, we have a total of 77 full-time employees. We leverage volunteer support to help what we do. I think one of the areas that we identified in committee is the ratio of land acreage to our staffing, and how that's been flat over all the years that we have to manage, and we do a very efficient job with who we have. But I think your questions are warranted. How much is on the land? How much is administration? How much goes to different areas of operations? And again, we did do a salary study last year that our board supported, because we were falling behind and we needed to adjust to retain our staff, and our retention has been solid, but we're seeing that other organizations are looking to take our team members, and it's really important that we keep that talent that we've spent investments in, that they're growing, and then adding back for our efficiencies and effectiveness here in the county.
Thank you. There's a lot of new people, and I think it would just be very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Ms. Ness?
I think some of the information that Member Greeno is looking for was in your presentation at PE&D. You answered most of those questions in your budget presentation, and I know that that is a recorded meeting, and that information is available to anybody who has questions. I thought your presentation was very thorough around those issues of your budget.
Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shorten, 16B215.
Thank you. We had a real good discussion in public health back on the 29th about the mobile clinic, and there was just a couple follow-ups that I think your team was going to go back and try and get additional data for us. The piece that stuck out to me was right now we have about 1,000 WIC recipients that we don't know if they're receiving services, and one of the initial intents with this mobile clinic is to try and reach those folks. We talked about how Boone County and I believe DuPage County had launched mobile clinics, and your team is going to go back and find out what kind of success they're having, and I'm wondering if you've been able to gather any additional data on that.
Yeah, so we were able to connect with a couple of the other counties. I'm going to let Susan Karras, the Director of Nursing, give you the specifics on what we've heard thus far. We don't have all the information that was requested, in part because it's a little too soon to have all the data, right? Because this is a newer way of delivering services for some of the county health departments.
So yes, I want to thank Boone County and DuPage County. They spent a lot of time with us and answering our questions and providing us with information, lessons learned with their rollout of their mobile units. But both with the data that they did share, they aren't able to tell us whether they're increasing caseload because they only have a few months worth of data. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll kind of have a better idea of what that's looking like. But what they did share with us is that the mobile units are in demand. When they do take them out, the schedules are filled. And they also have a much higher utilization as far as show rate versus their brick and mortar clinic areas. We have the same thing. We have a high no-show rate, but when these units are out in the community, that no-show rate decreases considerably. And what was shared from DuPage was that they also accept walk-ins at those units, so it offsets their no-show. So they're seeing a lot of clients in these locations. And they've also shared, it's a reminder that WIC is not just a nutrition program, it's a referral program. So they're looking at the whole picture with these individuals and referring them to services that they need. So they have been starting to collect data on how many referrals they're making, how many other services they could provide in the mobile unit to capture those people while they're there, such as immunization, SNAP benefits, MPEs for public aid for pregnant women, those kinds of services that we can help them get enrolled quickly.
And do they express and I know we didn't really talk about this in depth, so if you don't have an answer, respectfully, I understand. But we talked about in public health about potential for partnership with municipalities or grant opportunities. Has there been any discussion or further definition of what that would look like here or the ways that they've approached that?
As far as the sustainability, yeah. There's a grant that Boone County applied for above and beyond just the DHS grant for WIC. So that's an 18-month grant, highly competitive, but they were able to get it. And of course, they have to show success to renew that. DuPage is just using their DHS, and they're just looking at, they're always looking, as well as we are, for resources. We did inquire about the maintenance. Our estimate as far as maintenance is in line, and they did share what they've had for maintenance, and it is in line with what we would need. And that would, so we're estimating about $30,000 a year, and that would include, any kind of maintenance that's needed on the vehicle, as well as like a driving service. And we're also looking at using MRC because you need that special driving Class C certificate. So the same things that we kind of shared in that meeting, they have kind of run up to those challenges, but they were able to find those resources. But they are looking at partnering, such as us, with community partners to offset that expense on the general fund.
Okay. Melissa?
It's not read yet. So just one other thing that Susan had shared with me before the meeting is that patient satisfaction, I don't think I heard you say that, has gone up. They have gotten really great responses from patients that delivering care in this manner is a great way of serving those clients. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, they did share their survey results, and it's a Likert scale, and over 90% of people are saying they're extremely satisfied.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ms. Althoff.
Thank you much, Mr. Chairman. I love this board's response and oversight for fiscal responsibility and where we spend our money. I think we do a phenomenal job of evaluating opportunities and programs and determining whether they give the value or not. I am in such strong support of this mobile unit, you can't even imagine. The number one identified issue when people move into an area is, what do you look for? Education and healthy communities. This mobile unit helps us deliver that service. We were concerned when COVID was an issue It was a pandemic. We've never experienced that before. This mobile unit helps us prepare for those next situations, those next incidents. And I understand the need to evaluate whether or not the money is being spent appropriately. And again, using federal dollars, and then we're stuck with the program. Do we have the money to fulfill those promises? I think we've done a good job in evaluating and determining we do. It will offset future potential costs. One of the other issues we identify all the time in McHenry County is we don't have any public transportation. It's a deficit and a void. This mobile unit will ensure that we get to places where people don't have access to get to those appointments at the brick and mortar facility. You know, I strongly support when you go and you look at the agenda for it's not next Tuesday, remember, it's a week later, when we actually meet for that opportunity. This is really a good program. I think everybody should feel extremely good about investing time, money, and energies into providing the service. So I commend the department. Susan, thank you very much for all your efforts. But again, I strongly urge everybody to support this.
Ms. Wegner.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Altoff. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. I just want to also talk about this is an investment in our community. So we may be spending some money, outlay money, but if you look at the savings, I mentioned in public health about how preventing diseases and prevention is actually cheaper in the long run than treating them. So if you look at chronic diseases such as heart disease, lung, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, those are things that can be changed or helped with treatment or prevention. 1/3 of the deaths in the United States are attributed to heart disease and stroke. The prevalence of diabetes has dramatically increased over the past few decades. So chronic disease itself can reduce the quality of life of patients and their families and affect the household finances. It increases rates of work absenteeism, and household income for those with chronic diseases is often lower. So it also it's a leading, chronic diseases are a leading drive or cost of healthcare, and healthcare is actually 17% of our nation's GDP. So if we look at that, 17% of our GDP, and then for every dollar we spend in healthcare, we have a lost economic productivity of about four times that. So think of the lost productivity that we are losing because all of the chronic diseases out there. So I just want to say I wholeheartedly support this. I want to make sure that we can give people the best lives that we can give and create this investment in our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment, Mr. Kern, 16B216.
Yes, I pulled this not because I object to it, which I don't. I pulled this to ask a couple questions about the way we spend our money on Valley High. And I told Pete I was going to ask this question. And I was going to pull it and tie it together with the previous item agenda that was just discussed. My concern is that we're spending money, ARPA money, on the health department, redoing the building over in Crystal Lake. We're spending several $1 million there of ARPA funds. Yet we're not spending, and I'd like to know how much money we're spending on Valley High of ARPA money instead of using reserves, that operate the money, operate the operation over there. Why aren't we, or can't we use some of the ARPA funds to do some of these projects, meaning repairs and recycling and the new memory care unit? Why can't we use some of the ARPA funds for that?
And Tom, you can help me on this, but first off, there has been significant dollars from the CARES COVID response program and the ARPA COVID response program that have gone to Valley High. But they've largely gone directly to Valley High through the state, you know, in response to staffing and equipment and just general COVID response. The county was a direct recipient of about $59.7 million in American Rescue Plan dollars. And this board, as we know, took about 30 to the public and 30 to county operations. When we talk about how we spend those dollars on county operations, there's a limited amount of those dollars that are truly flexible, that can be used in ways that aren't immediately tied to pandemic response or pandemic preparation or health care. Those dollars, those flexible dollars, are exhausted. Those come from quantitative revenue loss. And I'm sorry, Carrie's not here, Jeremy's here. Carrie's down the hall working with our external auditor. But we had to quantify how much revenue we lost because of the pandemic. And that number loosely was $14 million. So to fix the sprinkler at Valley High or to build a dementia unit, we would have needed to use those flexible dollars, those dollars that were tied to revenue loss, and we've exhausted those. So I hope that explains that a little bit, Jim. You know, we don't have as much flexibility as you might think on how we spend those dollars, and I don't think a sprinkler system at Valley High would fit into that bucket.
And I'm not asking for the sprinkler system.
Okay.
I'm asking why we can remodel the health department and spend several $1 million, but not use funds in similar fashion for Valley High.
Again, we have to tie. When we took our $30 million that we were going to keep internally for county operations, we said to the health department, you're going to get $7.5 million of those monies. And when the allocation that you've been discussing today, the remodeling at Crystal Lake or the mobile bus, that's coming out of that $7.5 million. Where the Board of Health was kind of tasked with how do you want to use those dollars, and that's a decision that was quite some time ago, and we kind of have updated as we've been moving along. I think most recently, we updated pretty significantly in November of last year with Finance Committee, and then in the last couple of rounds of Finance Committee, we've been talking about this. Would it have been possible to use Valley High, or to use ARPA money for Valley High? Yes, I think it would have been, but we would have had to tie it back to COVID response or preparation for the next pandemic. If we can't check that box, then it's got to go back to the revenue loss pot, and we've exhausted that.
Okay, and certainly we have funds out there, and I'd like to hear the review of some of these funds we spent or allocated $1 million to a apartment project in McHenry and a couple other projects, that all those funds might possibly not be used. And I don't know the deadline of when those have to be, dead, not unused, or need to come back and be reallocated. I would certainly like to see those funds reallocated to Valley High projects over there, being that, and here's my reasoning on that. When you put that memory care unit up, there are things there that could help for the next pandemic, meaning the air system, different parts of that process, that we've got several $1 million being spent there also, that if we could get $500,000, that certainly would help for the future longevity of Valley High. And so I've said this, and I know you all know here that I've harped on this long enough that we should be using ARPA funds for Valley High. I've said this, you can go back since this all began. And so I guess I'll leave it at that. I think I've made my point that if some of those funds come back from some of these projects that are not going to be used, we should reallocate those to Valley High. So, thank you.
Mr. Scala?
Do you want me to answer your question now or later?
You can answer it if you want. It doesn't make a difference. I'm just trying to put my point out there.
No, and that's fine. I guess So the Finance Committee is actively looking, usually every quarter at least, if not every other month, at the ARPA allocations for both internal and external. So the differentiation between what you asked about is that the projects that were on the external side of the 30 million is what we are looking at, making sure that those monies are allocated. We did ask Bronner about the definition of when they can be allocated, and basically, so if there are projects that on the external side that we have determined will not come to fruition and the money will not be spent, we are allowed to reallocate those dollars to other projects. But again, what you're asking is to take that external 30 million that the board is dedicated and bring that over to the internal side of the 30 million equation, which can be done. The board set the 30 million and 30 million split, but we could definitely do that. The only problem that I would see with that is that we already have underfunded several capital projects on the public side that we've already committed to those entities, which I think there was 6 or 7, that if additional monies became available, that we would, fully fund those projects. So that's the only caveat to what you had stated, but naturally the board can make decisions going forward that are different than what the board had made decisions on in the past.
So naturally, I would react to that saying, I would like the board to pull some of that unused funds back instead of giving it and put it toward Valley High, which I feel is extremely necessary that we do that, because the Valley High is important. It helps a lot of people, and it's not making, frankly, I'll say this without, hopefully, I'm sure I'm gonna offend somebody out here, but some of these are projects for these partner with apartments and different things, is making some people rich. Well, I'd rather spend that money on our elderly and ever increasing, we all get old and older, and we need to support Valley High with this if we can. So I would support bringing some of those funds, unused funds, back.
Ms. Van Hoff?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would just like to ask Scott or Pete for some clarification, because my understanding is that those funds had to be allocated by this year, and the project completed, is it 2026? Could you give us some clarification on that? And isn't it true that the previous board decided that a certain amount of those ARPA funds would go to the health department?
Both statements are accurate.
Okay. So, so we're really talking about something that we already know, that a certain amount of money was allocated to the health department, and this mobile unit is something that really does fit into what is needed there. We know it's a game changer, and as my other members have pointed out, transportation always comes up. There are people who are not going to come to get the services they need because they don't have the transportation to get there. And there are also communities that this mobile unit will just make just a huge difference in. I wholeheartedly support that. And I know that ARPA funds have already been allocated. I see Thomas here, and I can have him speak on that, but thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Regarding what Jim was saying, and I don't, disagree with Jim that we should always review where these monies are going to go, especially if some of these projects don't use it all. But it's my understanding, and that once the memory care unit is finished, Valley High will still have a very sufficient and healthy reserve. That's correct, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, Mr. Scala, 17B1.
Yeah, don't want to belabor this all over again. There was just some discussion after last month about confusion regarding what we were in fact voting on based on how the resolution was. And I just wanted to be very clear that the only item that is up for an actual vote is on the north and south end of Lakewood Road, and that how it was split into two different speed studies. And so that is, the Pyatt Road is not up for vote. It's just strictly the Lakewood Road, north and south version, reducing that. So that was just clarification.
Ms. Wegner?
Thank you. I appreciate everybody who has commented on this in the past and who have said that they don't want to reduce the speed limit. But I decided to ask the neighbors up and down Lakewood Road to see what they thought. And 80% of the households I spoke to said they would like the reduction of the speed limit. There are a lot of families that live around there and children, and not only it could be a danger to the families, but it's also, there could be noise. But the biggest issue is the danger. So I was looking up some statistics. Reduction of a speed limit by 1 mile per hour results in a 6% decrease in traffic fatalities. And basically, if you have a crash, then you have a higher chance of survival if you're going at a lower speed, and people can stop faster in a car. So I just wanted to let you know that I did take a survey and I did walk around and ask the neighbors, and 80% of them would like the speed limit reduced from 45 to 40.
Ms. Campbell?
All right, thank you. And I don't want to belabor it either. I know we've talked about this quite a bit, so I appreciate everyone's patience with me for a couple of minutes, just to kind of just touch briefly on a few points that were made last time around. And I have 6 points, but I'll make them quick. The first one was having the Village of Lake in the Hills weigh in. I know the Transportation Committee did not request this. It was suggested just on during one of the meetings, and I know it was meant in good faith. On some level, it did kind of put the village on the spot, and I think we can all appreciate being elected officials, being in the position of navigating boundaries with other elected officials, and we are cautious to stay in our lane, to quote a respected colleague, and avoid weighing in publicly, at least publicly, on matters before other elected bodies, especially in our official capacity. I think Lake in the Hills, because I have spoken to people offline, they're very in support of reducing speed in that area, but I think that they, out of respect for what they consider to be our domain, I think their letter reflected that, and I think I would just respectfully ask that we let that go and just understand it for what it is. Waiting until road improvements are completed, that would be fine if they were actually starting. We are starting in phase 2 engineering, which is going to take at least a couple of years. I also understand that since this project will overlap the Randall Road North improvements, it could actually impact how quickly this gets done. You add in construction time, and we're talking 4 or 5 more years before it's completed, and keeping in mind we started talking about this a year ago. The speed limit change is consistent with other roads in the immediate area. Last year, when the Transportation Committee was discussing possible changes, not specifically this one, a member asked if the change was consistent with other roads in the area, which I thought was a good question. The speed limit on the other 2 county roads that move traffic through the area, Miller and Ackman, are both 40 miles an hour and have been that for quite some time. All 3 roads have high traffic volumes. County roads are meant to move traffic through the area quickly. I agree. I think that that's what we'd like to do. We don't want to see congestion and whatever. But roads change in character over time, and county roads in more rural areas where there are farm fields or open space, I understand that, but this is an area where an entire neighborhoods have been built up around this county road. I mean, you look at a map and it's hard to even think about the fact that it's that county road of 25 years ago, right? Residents from these neighborhoods move back and forth across Lakewood Road to visit retail, other neighborhoods, and access parks, especially Sunset Park, which is the location for many of Lake in the Hills' major festivals, activities, including parades. A comparison was made upon, and I understand that we kind of want to look at what's happening throughout the county, so this is not a criticism, but another road in the county was identified that had way lower speeds, like 25 miles an hour or something like that, and still had frequent accidents. I would argue that's not really an apt comparison to the situation on Lakewood Road. It may be the point that lower speed limits don't always result in fewer accidents, or perhaps that lack of enforcement is the real issue. Both of those could be true, but this is not an apples to apples comparison. People will engage in reckless behavior. They will drive drunk or too fast or while texting, or they'll pass in no passing zones. All we have to do is look at the accidents that have been occurring of late all over the county. But does that mean you deny law enforcement the tools they need to do their jobs? And I would argue no. Lake in the Hill police officers are out there. They're out there every day. They are present all over the community, especially on our roads, to ensure our safety. And I should know this, I live right there on the border with Lake in the Hills and feel just as much a part of that community as my own. This recommendation came out of a biannual traffic study conducted by MC.DOT staff. So just to be clear, this is not something that was pulled out of thin air for action. It was not taken on a whim. This is one of several roads recommended for a speed reduction last spring. There are a number of factors that might trigger a road being considered for review. I think that it's oftentimes the roads, it's a mix each time that they come forward. And oftentimes you have more roads where no recommendation for change is the case as opposed to recommending a change. Lakewood Road rose to the top, as did Pyatt, as being especially problematic. My understanding is only 2 county roads have been approved for speed reduction, I think, over the last number of years. Last year, I think the second one was Airport Road, which was approved last summer. I know a lot of the township roads get approved, but with that, again, as an elected official, so I respect the fact that we're honoring other elected officials' requests. I'm just asking to honor the results of the study and hoping that my colleagues will support me in this and vote for that. Thank you.
Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Chair. I have a great deal of appreciation and certainly respect for the desire to keep our county roadway speeds efficient and consistent for travel throughout the county. I think that's a very important recognition, and I am grateful for the fact that many of our colleagues uphold that. Our esteemed colleague Althoff just indicated that one of the primary reasons that folks move into the county, whether it's as residents or as business, is for our educational system, for our health system, and I would add to that safety and welfare. I think that that's very, very important. And so in this regard, I think we are now looking at an opportunity on Lakewood Road to ensure safety of travel of the residents in that area, which is continuing to grow and continue to develop. Things are not static. Obviously, they are, in fact, dynamic, and over time, circumstances, needs change. There's no question about the fact that certain roadways within the larger county, just as in any municipality, by virtue of their location and point-to-point conveyance, are going to become thoroughfares. That's just the nature of human beings. We have a tendency to move to areas and utilize areas which we believe provide us a greater degree of efficiency and, frankly, sometimes a less degree of oversight, and so we have a tendency to push the limits just a little bit. That is, in fact, human nature. I think that Lakewood Road has become an example of that. It has become somewhat of a thoroughfare, and yet we all recognize the fact that it is a highly residential area. I have been approached, as members of the body have been approached by residents within the area and also representatives of the proximate local unit of government that have indicated that it would be appropriate for us to lower the speed limit on this particular roadway. Additionally, our professional staff has gone through a thorough review, and they have determined that a speed reduction is warranted on this particular area. I believe that, as in all cases across our considerations, whether it is with regards to traffic flow or whether it's regards to improvements on construction work or whether it has to do with any other thing such as health and welfare, we listen very soundly to our professional staff. They are professionals, and they have provided a review of these types of things based upon professional standards. And so it's for these reasons then that I am very supportive of this request and will be voting in favor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, Pete, you got a report for us today?
Yeah, I did provide a written report. It's on your desk and emailed it out last night. Again, thank you to everybody who helped to put that together. There's a lot of writers in that document, so thanks for that. If you have any questions on anything you read there, please let me know. I wanted to acknowledge at our last Administrative Services Committee meeting, Scott did a real nice presentation on space and some of the space study work we've done in the past and looking ahead what we might need to do in the future. I would encourage you to take a look at that portion of the Administrative Services Committee meeting. Scott's going to email out his PowerPoint now. Go. But it really needs to be consumed with his narrative. So if you get a moment, please take a look at that. It was a good job. I wanted to acknowledge that the food shed, which we've talked some about, is going to be doing their grand opening now finally on May 15th. They were here yesterday in front of the Community Development Housing Group. But their executive director, Peter Waldman, did say that the press release is going out tomorrow, and I could tell you today that the food shed is formally going to be opening up on the 15th. Also tomorrow, we're going to formally start the search for the next executive director of the McHenry County Council of Governments. Alicia and Kevin are locked and loaded and ready to send out the ad, I think, tomorrow, and we're working with the staff over at MCEDC to get that going. Mike Scala has been kind of running point with the MCEDC Executive Committee, and I think we're all ready to go on that. So looking forward to finding some good talent there. We referenced, I think, a little bit some of the ARPA money that is going to housing, and we are kind of tentatively looking at a ceremonial groundbreaking for the Taylor Street apartments in the city of McHenry on that first week of April. That's Community Development Week. I'm talking some with our staff, and I'm having a meeting on Wednesday with the new city administrator in McHenry, but that's sort of what we're looking at. It won't really be the groundbreaking. I don't think there's going to be a big backhoe yet, but it's coming. It's coming pretty soon. So that Community Development Week would be a nice opportunity to kind of celebrate what's been going on there. We've referenced Lakewood Road a few times in the last 10 minutes. The Lakewood Road information meeting and open house will be next Wednesday at Lake in the Hills Village Hall from 4 to 7. However, a little bird told me, Mr. Hennings, that if you show up a little bit early, you can probably get in. Now, on next Wednesday, you have a Council of Governments meeting in Ringwood at 5:30. So if you want to do both and you want to show up a little bit early at Lake in the Hills Village Hall, Scott and the DOT staff will be there and their consultants, so you can let you in a little bit early if you wanted to get an early preview on that. Finally, I want to mention that if you've never seen a judge being sworn in, we're going to do that in about a half hour. Judge Carl Metz will be sworn in, so if you want to make your way over to courtroom 204, it's always a cool ceremony. And then I'm going to, at the risk of taking too long, I'm going to let Scott talk for a moment about tornadoes. So thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Very quick moment. March is Severe Weather Awareness Month, and in keeping with that, we asked all the county offices to review their severe weather plan in the event that we have a tornado or severe weather. They have them look at their space, train their staff on what to do, what their space should have, what they do with customers in their office, to keep everybody safe in the event something happens. Well, the county board is no exception. So in the event of a severe weather event that comes to Woodstock and to this building or affects this building, what do you do? So here's what you do. And keep in mind, it's not just the 18 members of the county board and the county board chair and the staff. We may have a whole gallery full of interested public, and we have to make sure they're safe as well. So here's what we do. The first and foremost, the kitchen is the administration suite's severe weather warning space. It's interior, it's protected, it's where you go. You want to go into that space. It's not a big space though. It's not going to accommodate everybody, and if we have a very large meeting, it's not going to accommodate the members of the public. So what we would do, if that space is full, we want to get as many people in there as possible. We're going to get cozy, but it's for safety. The next step is where Mr. Scala is. You move to that area, that back wall. I would say seek shelter under your desks. Even the chairman's Diaz, you can go into that space as well. But ideally, we want to bring everybody into these two corners. And the reason, because they're interior, they're sheltered, and that would just, keep everybody safe. We've got some protection with these desks. You want to stay away from the halls, you want to stay away from windows, and that's where we go. So, and if something happens, we'll ask for your leadership to usher everybody in so they know what to do to be safe. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Greeno,
Are we to other on the agenda?
pardon me,
Are we to the other on the agenda for other comments?
other?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have a comment?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Number 10.
proceed, please. I have to leave here in like 5 minutes, so
Great.
let's.
Okay, I did not know where it would be appropriate to address 9B on the agenda for the committee meeting, but it is not the business of this board to engage in identity politics, and differentiating this again, singling out a segment, it's half of our population when we ignore the other half, and actually it's a little bit more than half of the population. But also in the content that is written in this proclamation is the dogma of the far left with DEI, which was by Herbert Marcus, who was a communist who left the Nazi regime, providing equal outcomes, not equal opportunities, which is diametrically opposed to our U.S. Constitution. I would please ask that this would be pulled from the agenda for the committee meeting.
Mr. Scala makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Wagner. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Against? Have a good day.